All right. I think we're recording.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Are we ready for this?
Do you have your stuff together?
I don't know, Hamid. That's a really personal question.
Welcome to the Aztec podcast. I'm your host, Hamid Chojai, a tech enthusiast and entrepreneur. Recently, my wife and I sold our software companies and we're investing $10 million in Arizona's tech ecosystem. As a way to know what's happening in Arizona, every week I get to sit down with some exceptionally talented people who are doing some cool shit. All right, let's go.
Okay.
We are wrapping up season 1, right?
I cannot believe that. We didn't even intend to do seasons originally.
No, it's just because I'm going on vacation. we just decided, like, okay, this is a good point to stop and
wrap things up.
We'll just call it season 1, and then when I come back from vacation, we'll call it season 2, huh?
Yeah, but I think actually it really has kind of been, we're going to have a great ending place. And I'm excited for this summer to kind of like re-promote and revisit some of our favorite interviews, some of the episodes. And I'll be glad to have you gone for 6 months.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, you can come out with it. Be totally truthful.
No, I'm going to miss Hamid.
Yeah. Okay. Is it hard to believe that we've done 23 episodes?
Yes.
It's kind of crazy, right?
I've made podcasts before, and never in my life have I made a 23 episode season of a podcast.
And what's funny is that I'd never done this before, and when I interviewed you and I was like, hey, we're going to do this every week and put out an episode, maybe 2. And you're like, we're going to need weeks to edit each episode. I was like, we're not going to edit them. What was going through your mind at that time?
I was like, okay, Hamid, like, we'll see how this goes. I was just thinking back on my past experiences with doing more produced podcast episodes. And I'm like, sure, Hamid.
Yeah.
But then we did it. And even after our first episode, I kind of was able to see like, oh, like this is possible.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, I think that's one of the benefits is we're kind of not defying expectations, but it's nice that we keep them being produced consistently,
right,
and that we're not waiting weeks after we've had these great conversations to...
For me, it's like about getting the full interview. Like whenever, for example, I remember in the 90s, there was a great documentary made that was called Revenge of the Nerds, which was basically a documentary of the entire PC industry and how it came about. And there was interviews in there with Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and people who like invented Ethernet, and just like it documented this guy. I think his name is Robert Kringley. He did an incredible job like putting together this sort of 3-hour documentary for PBS. One of my favorites to this day. But it was all these short clips of interviews. And after Steve Jobs passed, he put the entire interview that he had unedited with Steve Jobs. And I thought that interview by itself was even better than the entire documentary because it just gave so much insight into the person and, like the detailed answers. And I love fully produced things that are edited. But then sometimes you just want to like get to know someone really well, and you want to see their answers, and you want to see them think or hear them think, or just see the silences or hear the silences in the moments as they're thinking and processing. And that has its own appeal, I think. And I think that's, like what we're going for, obviously. But I like produced stuff too. And who knows, we might dabble in that a little bit.
That'd be awesome. That'd be so exciting. But yeah, I think I'd never heard that story about how you loved Revenge of the Nerds, still do.
It might have been Triumph of the Nerds. It's like something of the nerds.
Yeah.
The documentary. So anyway, I gotta look it up at some point. But
yeah, it's those are I love raw interviews as well, and I think one of the real things that I've come to love about our podcast and producing our podcast is hearing the unexpected emotion, for example, that you can see how these experiences have affected these people in so many different ways. And I think it makes them a lot more relatable, because we have a lot of successful people coming into our studio. And as soon as we hear the background of where they've come from and their goals for the future and their optimism or, worries maybe, it makes them more accessible. And in that way, I always leave every interview feeling super inspired. Maybe not to start a company necessarily, in terms of like starting from the ground up, bootstrapping my way. That's never been like my personality, but something in me. I have a lot of goals personally, and every time I'm listening, I'm being a fly on the wall, and I hear these people talk about how they never gave up or they took risks, and I'm always like, oh my gosh, there's ways that I can do that in my own life.
Right.
And I think this is very like relatable, not only to tech people, not only to founders, entrepreneurs, but people who, like me, who didn't originate in the tech industry or didn't build their career in the tech industry.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're, while you're producing the episodes, you're also enjoying listening to the stories and the struggles. And I relate to it as well, because first of all, the people I have on the podcast are people I admire quite a bit, and hearing their struggles also is inspiring. I agree.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice knowing that, like, other people have had to go through a lot of struggle to get to where they are. And, you're like, okay, I haven't had it so bad,
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe if you haven't had as much struggle, then you're like, well, maybe I'm not taking enough risks or, setting high enough goals for myself. What were some of like your favorite moments or big takeaways that you've had? Does any episode or like portion of an interview stand out?
So we've had so many, and I can say something good that came out of every episode, a takeaway that I've had. Just off the top of my head, some of the standouts. I loved Kate Seeker's interview because she talked about the struggle that she had. She had some big life changes, loss of I think it was her father. Yeah. And she kind of just had this like, not meltdown, but she really had to take some time for herself during the pandemic at the beginning of COVID, especially the beginning of March. And I had my own kind of life changes, reflection time during the month of March, and I could totally relate with her, and I loved seeing how she came out of it. So I loved Kate Seeker's interview. I loved Francine Hardaway's interview.
She's so great, isn't she?
I just was going through the interview the other day, and I was laughing out loud. And she's just such a force to be reckoned with. Even as she's getting older, she's still like just got this great, hilarious personality.
It's awesome.
And
refreshing.
Yeah, really refreshing. And she just is inspiring because she takes advantage of every opportunity she's given, and she kind of is able to, she talked about pivoting, even though she didn't even really use the word at the time, but she pivoted frequently. And she also like gave credit to, whether it's like if you want to think about the universe or something, she just said karma, that's what it was. And she just said she's grateful for, she said she's been really lucky, and she didn't say like, oh, I'm such an amazing person, I don't know how I got to where I am, but she was like, no, I just have been lucky, and she took advantage of a lot of the luck. And then like I've actually just been reviewing Jamie Baxter's episode.
Yeah.
And his comeback story
is incredible.
Yeah. I love in the episode, you're like actually expressing like your shock or amazement at what's happened.
Yeah.
And it kind of emphasizes like, oh my gosh.
Well, COVID affected so many different companies, some in a very positive way, like Prenda just exploded, or Evercast exploded. And in the case of Quick, it was the exact opposite for them. Like instead of exploding, they like imploded as a result of, and they had to get rid of 70% of their staff. That was an incredible story.
Yeah, and they dropped 80% in revenue,
which is nuts.
In like a day.
And they were already like not profitable. So they were like this startup that's like actively growing and spending a bunch of money, and to lose 80% of your revenue overnight and then not have money in the bank. You were in the middle of a raise. You know, like it was. I can't believe they came out of that.
Yeah.
But you know, not only did they come out of it, but they came out much stronger. So I totally agree. That story is pretty amazing. And I think that's going to be on episode 2 of.
Actually, episode 3.
Oh, is it? Okay, episode 3 of the Cox.
Our Cox TV show.
TV show, yeah.
We're now TV producers, right? We're taking the bull by the horns.
Who would have known?
Who would have known?
Just at the time that nobody listens or watches TV anymore, we're on TV.
We are ahead of the game. We're going backwards in time.
If only this was 20 years ago.
Or even like maybe 10 years ago when people actually still used cable. But not to downplay that we are TV producers.
Yeah.
So.
Is that a thing? Or is that like, can we put that on our resume? Like TV producer? Okay. Yeah. For sure. Not that anybody would hire me.
You can be a primetime newscaster.
Oh, yeah. That's funny. What else? Did anything else stand out?
We've had so many. Some of the people like Francine have just made me laugh. We have Mike Roberts. Who's
Mike Roberts.
So funny and unique, and his perspective on life is so funny. And Howard Lindzen, he made me laugh so hard during our episode. And he reminds me of someone, and I think it's, have you ever seen like The Doctor, or have you ever seen House?
I don't think so.
He reminds me of the doctor on House. I think it's Hugh Laurie. Okay. No, Hugh.
But
anyway,
one of the characters.
Yeah,
on that
one
show?
of the main character, because he's really funny. Anyway.
Yeah, he was great, and his investment in Manscaped was hilarious.
I think that's one of the times that I was laughing the hardest. I was just like, what do I do here?
What's funny is that Manscaped, for whatever reason, has stuck out in my head. And, I'm now a customer of Manscaped as well.
Oh, my God.
So thanks to Howard
TMI.
What's funny is that I needed a beard trimmer. And my beard trimmer had broken. And I was like, all right, I may as well. It's a freaking beard trimmer being marketed as,
other things.
Male grooming. But it's brilliant. And it's actually a really good beard trimmer. I mean, that's what until a few days ago, I had a beard, so I was trimming it, and I was using the Manscaped product to trim it. But
Thank you, Howard Lindzen.
Yeah.
You walked in with a beard a week ago, and I was like, what the?
Yeah.
But then you were supposed to
I can grow it in one afternoon. That's my Persian side.
It's your very masculine side. I can grow a beard in an afternoon.
I don't know why I'm saying that's my Persian side, because that's the only side I have. Both parents were Iranian.
Right.
All right, so we're going into what are you going to be doing, by the way, while I'm on vacation? Is it like party time?
I think we'll move to the pool.
Yeah.
A pool. Actually, we might move into your house. I could get someone Tegan would let me in, totally. We'll just move our office around the pool.
There is a pool there.
I know. So, it's a nice pool. So, yeah, I think that's going to be the plan, is just relax by the pool for the most part.
Is the focus going to be on AZ Tech Beat?
Yes, we're going to focus on AZ Tech Beat. We've got a couple other potential projects in the works that we won't say now, but we'll maybe announce them later this summer.
These are projects I know about, or
These are projects
oh,
you know
okay.
about.
I was
projects we've
getting
discussed.
excited. I was like, whoa.
Well, maybe we've got Abby. She's our intern. Maybe me and Abby will just start hosting our own tech podcast.
Yeah, I would love that. Actually.
Yeah.
I want to get surprised by something impressive.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a challenge.
There's a challenge.
That is a challenge.
But AZ Tech Beat has been kicking butt. You guys had 20-something articles in May.
Right.
We just wrapped up May. And what's going on in the tech scene in Arizona?
So I think the reason why AZ Tech Beat has had so much content, so many articles, is because there's so much going on in Arizona.
Yeah.
We've written a lot about the new semiconductor plants. We've written a lot about, potential EV growth here. Exactly. Yeah. And then we've got some funding news from different companies.
Software companies.
We've got...
There's a lot of activity.
Yeah, several of our companies have won major awards. So there's so much going on, and I think people are really tapping into... we're getting attention, I should say, from even places outside the state. I just saw an article in the Wall Street Journal about how the Southwest is becoming a huge tech hub.
Yeah.
So
it's funny how, for others, it validates that, the stuff that we know, living and breathing it on a regular basis. Arizona is awesome. It's a great environment. It's it can be so much more than it is currently, but there's also so much activity happening here that nobody knows about, because literally there isn't a tech-focused there isn't tech-focused journalism that's happening, right? You have the various different publications that are old school, they're covering all kinds of news, and tech is just a small tad bit part of it. And no one I know reads those publications anymore. So, having something that's tech-focused actually appeals to people in tech, which is kind of why I think AZ Tech Beat is an important asset to the community. Hopefully, people will continue to submit their news there, and it's continuing to get more and more traction every week, which is great to see.
Right. I think, just to reiterate our goal for AZ Tech Beat, like you said, we want to focus on and highlight the good things that are going on in tech. And we hope we eventually want it to be the main resource that people in Arizona go to who are interested in startups, tech, and
where you just want to find out what's going on, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe you're someone out of the state considering moving here. What's going on in Arizona?
What are some of the interesting tech companies who's making news in Arizona? So yeah, I mean it's and the fact that every month since we relaunched it in February, it's getting more and more and more activity is pretty awesome.
Right. It's super excited. And another thing is we don't want to have a paywall. We're never going to have a paywall.
Right.
Because again, we want to have...
The worst thing is when you click on a story in LinkedIn or something and you're like, oh, I'm interested to read what happened. And then you're like, you get one sentence of the story and then they're like, subscribe.
Exactly. And a lot of these really unique, niche, kind of industry-focused news organizations, they do have to rely on a paywall.
Right.
So I'm really grateful that we've made it so we can continue to provide things for free.
Yeah, yeah. So AZ Tech Beat is happening. What else? What are you excited for in the summer?
Oh, another thing with AZ Tech Beat that I wanted to talk about is that keep submitting news.
Oh, yeah. Use the submit button at the top.
Use the submit button. You can also feel free to email me. I read every single news submission, and so I want to make sure that I'm up to date, and we want to highlight some of the biggest, companies, products, funding, investments that are happening to keep people informed. So
awesome.
So in terms of what I'm excited about this summer, I think I'm just really excited to revisit some of the interviews, we were really focused during the season on just making sure that we were continually having people in the studio, continually producing, to kind of really dive into what's going on and get ourselves up to date. But this summer, we kind of want to revisit, highlight some of the biggest moments. A lot of people are going to be, like you, perhaps traveling. So we want to have you, meaning the listeners, we want to have you able to be on a plane to wherever you're going and have some content to listen to help you be inspired even while you're taking a break. Or as you're commuting continually, maybe some of us aren't traveling that much this summer. We still want to have you be inspired while you're commuting or wherever you're on your way to.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right.
I want to ask you a couple questions.
Oh,
How do you feel about how things are going?
Well, there's the side of me that loves all of this and what we're doing because I enjoy it. So I get excited. We have interviews scheduled all the time, and I love the people that we're interviewing. So that part of it is just absolutely awesome. And then there's this sort of, I don't know if it's the entrepreneur part of me or the competitive part of me that looks at the stats and always wants it to be like growing faster or like more or, like what's wrong with our reach or how do we reach more people? So there's part of me that's not ever satisfied with the current results. And I think that, that's always been the case no matter how successful something I've worked on has been. But yeah, I mean, I think things are going really well, but I want them to go better.
Well, we are getting good feedback, and yeah. I'm confident in our content. It's just a matter of getting it out there. And I guess one thing I can also say is I've been experiencing somewhat of the startup, activity, some of the startup like anxiety or electricity that comes with starting something and building it from scratch. So that really gets me up in the morning, excited to do whatever we're planning on. And yeah. I definitely feel like sometimes it's like, what can we do more? But at the same time, we are seeing and hearing a lot of great feedback. And I think that's the most important thing, that we're, for those people who are listening and are excited about it, we want to keep providing some of the best content, which we have season 2 coming in August, September time frame. And we already have some really great guests that we're looking forward to scheduling.
Yes.
And we've still got a long list. It's
pretty incredible. I wasn't sure we're going to be able to do an episode every week. In some weeks, we've done 2 episodes, and like there's more and more people every week. We're like, oh, we got to interview this person and that person, and yeah, the list just keeps growing faster than I think we can get to them. There's so many amazing people.
Right, and we've had some people on the list for a while, but we've added so many just in the last couple months of, oh my gosh, did you know this was happening? Did you know this person? So that's also really exciting. Looking forward to the season 2 come the fall. That's crazy. Season 2.
Yeah. Pretty exciting.
Yeah. So
what else you got for me?
What else do I have for you? Is this how you wanted to spend your retirement? Is this what you were hoping for?
Well, I'm not considering myself permanently retired by any means, and this is like a perfect hobby. And I didn't want to jump back into something that was sort of like for profit for at least a couple of years, right? Like more than a year. It's probably going to take, like as an entrepreneur, you have ideas all the time, and it's like really hard not actually to jump into something. So this keeping me busy makes it easier for me not to jump back into something that's for profit, or that, it's going to have all the stresses of a startup or a business that's operational and has payroll and needs to, have revenues coming in and all that. So, I think this is a great way for me to spend my time, at least in the interim. I think that at some point down the road, like if I was to guess, I'm not going to be doing this 5 years from now, like the podcast. Hopefully I'll pass it on to somebody else to continue it. But yeah, I'm having a great time doing it.
Yeah. So spoiler alert, you might jump back into the startup world.
Well, not anytime soon. But I consider this a break, actually, right? I know you're like you're experiencing a startup from the podcast perspective, right? And the Aztec beat and all that stuff. But for me, this is a hobby. This is because imagine the added stress that you would have if you couldn't make payroll, if we didn't have sponsors, or like if we didn't have advertisers on Aztec Beat or whatever, and like or subscribers in the paywall situation, right? Whereas it's nice that those things are like we don't have to worry about that, right?
So I'm experiencing startup light.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like this is like 0 calorie startup, diet startup.
Well, still, it's so fun. I wonder. LaDanne wants you to be fully retired.
Well, she just wants me to do more honeydew lists items.
Well, she's so awesome. We need to convince her to come on the podcast. And I know she's still like on the fence about it, but if you're ever in the presence of LaDanne, just kind of drop the hint. No, I mean you, meaning the listeners. For those who are listening, if they're ever around LaDanne, just kind of be like, "Oh, LaDanne, we should really have you on the podcast."
That's funny.
We're scheming. So yeah, I think that's all the. Oh no! I have one more question.
Shoot.
How's AZ Disruptors going?
Oh, really good. So. We've already made several investments in software companies locally, which is great. I just got on the board of Invest Southwest, which has an event called Venture Madness that startups can pitch to, and I'm excited to actually have that event happen in person, which is happening in October. There's going to be a bunch of startups that are pitching to that. I think that may have been my computer. But anyway, so there's a lot of activity, again, in that realm. So there's going to be more and more investments being made from AZ Disruptors. I see every single pitch. So, by the way, if anybody is doing a startup, go submit your pitch at azdisruptors.com. Yeah, and it's going really good. I'm excited about the investments that we've made already as well. So
yeah, and I see you meeting with people, and really, you'll say, I need to take some time to really dive into AZ Disruptors today. So that is, I can attest to the fact that you're really excited about it and taking things seriously. So again, for anyone who wants to submit, what do you have to lose, right?
Yeah, exactly. But do a real submission. We get some that are no effort was put into the submission.
Right, it's like an idea.
But most people actually do put a really good effort and put together a pitch video, which is really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to be gone for 6 weeks. We're ending the season, and then you're kind of on your way. So I won't see you for a while.
Yeah.
But we still will keep hold down the fort here, and hopefully you come back and we've got some huge following, some big projects going, and you'll be pleasantly surprised.
That'll be awesome. I'm always pleasantly surprised anyway with just this stuff. Like when you look backwards on the accomplishments, it's really impressive, right? Like 23 episodes. I didn't think we could do that in a year.
Yeah.
And it's only been like 4 months.
Yeah. It's exciting. Cool. So fun. So we're just going to keep going.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, Adrienne. We'll wrap up this last season finale episode and bonus episode.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
All right.
Talk to you
later.
See you later. Bye. All right. You made it to the end of the episode. I would love to get your feedback, so take a moment to leave a genuine review in your favorite podcast app. That also helps us reach more people. Speaking of reach, if you like a particular episode, be sure to share it with someone who you think would enjoy it. See you next time. All right.
Were you mad that I brought up La Dan?
No, not at all. I think it's great.